What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this, I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for going forward. I'm also going to break down what's going on with Tesla stock because Tesla and NIO, in my opinion, are going to be some very good plays for the week compared to the overall market because the market may be very slow for the first half of this week. So I'm going to break down exactly why that is, what's happening to NIO and Tesla, what you should be watching for. But before I do anything like that, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money, whether it's $1 or $100, it's up to you. You are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And any could be a free NIO or Tesla share. The offer ends very, very soon. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. NIO was up about 3.19% for the day on Friday. Tesla was up 1.66%. The market held up quite nicely as we entered the end of the first half of the year. But Tesla just announced some very, very bullish numbers. And despite that happening, I just want to talk about something about the markets first. NIO and Tesla look primed for very, very nice upside, but the market may not be that strong to start us off because the market's going to be open for only half a day for tomorrow. The market closes at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 3 hours before it typically closes. So please be prepared for that. Do not hold anything like way too long thinking the market's going to like do something later on because the market's going to close much earlier. So just be very careful and please be prepared for that just to be safe. And by the way, nothing's financial advice that I just said. Let me also add that for July 4th, okay, the market's going to be closed as well. So we have half a day for Monday, July 3rd. Half a day, market closes at 1 p.m. Then for July 4th, the market's going to be completely closed. No trading for July 4th because it's going to be Independence Day here in America for my international viewers. Uh, when the market's closed, nothing's going to go on. So that's going to be our time to take a break. And then the market's going to go back to normal on Wednesday, July 5th. So please be prepared for all of that. This is going to have a big effect on volatility in the markets. Now, for earnings, there's not much coming out except for like Levi's this week for Thursday and just one more for Friday, but nothing else is happening for Monday through Wednesday. For big data coming out for Monday, we have like the S&P global manufacturing PMI. So 15 minutes after the market opens, we could see some volatility. Then 30 minutes after opening could happen again, but not much else is really going on. Now for NIO, let me just add that NIO has some very, very good news. However, I mentioned this yesterday in a lot more detail. So if you want to see more detail about the numbers, just watch my video from yesterday. But for now, just know that NIO did over 10,707 deliveries for the month of June, which was once again very, very good compared to how they were doing during like the period of May, also for like April and May, like right over here. So June was pretty decent. We got a big amount of growth month over month, but compared to previous June, it's a little bit lower. That's because they had a big backlog during the lockdown situation and other factors like that. But guidance is very strong for NIO, and NIO has provided some evidence that they're going to be improving their numbers as we approach the second half of 2023. NIO is also expecting a 20,000 delivery month sometime this year, and things are looking very, very good for it so far. This is bullish news that came out, in my opinion. Very good to see NIO do over 10,000 deliveries again and see a very big increase compared to May. Once again, awesome stuff. But on top of this, for Tesla also did something very, very awesome. They reported 466,000 deliveries for the second quarter of 2023. That's an all-time high for them, breaking expectations, a new record for them. And expectations were 440 to 450,000. Tesla did over 466,000. They also announced earnings for July 19th, and overall things are looking very good. They produced over 479,000 vehicles as well, almost 480,000, doing very, very well. We're very impressed with Tesla. And this is once again very, very bullish news. Tesla had quite a bit of shorting going on, so did NIO. I'm going to break that down in just a few minutes. You can see right here, the majority of Tesla's models were Model 3s and Model Ys, so that's important to note. And I think Tesla has a really, really big amount of potential for this week to be a good play despite the short trading week. Now, looking at NIO, let me just note that the short interest went a tiny bit up. We only saw about like 9 million shares shorted. So NIO is not going to see like a massive short squeeze, in my opinion. It's not going to be like Tesla. But NIO does have potential for upside. We could see a lot of buyers come in, a lot of big investors after NIO is showing lots of signs of strength. That's right after the UAE invested almost $1 billion into the company. They're not going to be investing into a trash company. Just know that, okay? Just to be blunt, they're not going to be doing that. It's going to be a good company. That is what NIO is. We have more conclusive evidence about that. And they likely know that NIO is going to be meeting those numbers, especially for the second half of this year. They promised it, and I think it's very likely they're going to do a lot better. But look at the short interest on Tesla. You could see it went very high during the final days approaching the big event. And then during the last 2 days, we saw this drop quite a bit. So lots of shorts started covering. They knew something. They knew deliveries were going to likely be good for Tesla, and they wanted to be safe. So you could see how this affected Tesla. And I think Tesla has a lot of potential to squeeze, and NIO has potential to push up as well. So for NIO, what levels am I going to be watching? Okay, if NIO wants to push up, you're going to be watching resistance around $10 flat. That's where NIO might go to. We could see this thing gap up to a little bit above 10, then just try to keep going. On the daily chart, you could see we have this resistance around, there's some resistance around this like 10 area, just 10 flat. I could see NIO test that. If it breaks above 10, you're going to be watching the next level of resistance, like 10.2 to 10.25. Break above that, then we have the next resistance around 10.4. Break that, then we have 10.75 and $11. After 11, it has potential to retest this 200 EMA at 11.44. Now, for downside, I mean, just to be safe, guys, we always have to talk about downside. A break below the 5 EMA below 9.37 would confirm some downside to a drop to like 9.25, then potentially this gap all the way down to like 8.5. But what do I think NIO is going to do? Well, in my opinion, now that you know both the support levels and the resistance levels, I think NIO is going to gap up tomorrow, hit this $10 area and start pushing. I think a lot of EVs are going to be pushing, like XMong and Li Auto and Tesla especially. I think NIO is going to pump all the way up. It's about 10.21, and then it's going to just try to continue going. The only problem with this prediction is typically NIO would pump a lot more, but the market's going to close early, 3 hours early. So it might get stopped around this like 10.2, 10.25 area, maybe a little bit higher than that. It could go a tiny bit higher, get closer to like 10.4. But like I said, guys, it may not be having enough time for it to just continue ripping. Market is only going to be open for half the day, closing at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So it might just get stopped around there. And I do think it's going to pop quite a bit. It has more potential to just keep going because typically after deliveries, right? If NIO does very well, it does not just pump for one day. It just tries to keep on going. It just keeps going and going for like a couple of trading days, a couple of weeks even. It just starts a nice uptrend. And that's what we're seeing so far. NIO had this nice bullish divergence. We also have a potential accumulation phase from a Wyckoffean standpoint. And we could see this accumulation take this thing all the way up to 10.75 or even higher than that. I also want to add that there's this unfilled gap like way up here at this like $11 area. So we might see NIO try to make its way all the way up there. We didn't really fill this gap up here at around 11.1. There's also this unfilled gap around this like 11.9 area. So it has quite a bit of potential for upside. I think it could make its way closer to 11s eventually, but for now, tomorrow is not going to be that great. I mean, I do think NIO is going to try to push up, of course, gap up close to like $10 and just try to continue pushing, hit 10.2 to 10.4, and then it may stop around there because the market's just going to, not be trading for too long, so it may not get enough volume in, and it could continue going into like Wednesday. So remember, half a day for Monday tomorrow, market closes at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 3 hours early. Then the market's completely closed for Tuesday. No trading for the 4th of July. And then on the 5th of July, the market's going to be back. For Tesla, this has more potential in my eyes because of the higher short interest and also because of the fact that there's a lot more eyes on Tesla. More people are watching it. There's going to be more volatility and more big investors. And Tesla didn't just give us a good report like the way NIO did. Tesla gave us an all-time high for quarterly deliveries. They absolutely crushed it. So for Tesla, okay, if this thing drops, just hypothetically, right, we always want to go over these levels. There's support at 260, 257.5, 255, and like 250. I do not see Tesla coming down to those levels, though. I just want to note that. For the upside targets, you want to watch that, in my opinion, 270 and then 275, right? That's going to be the next level because of the imbalance that formed on Tesla. If it breaks above that, some resistance at 286, I think is going to be the next important level. 290, and if it breaks above 290, it's going to fly to 300 quite easily. What do I think is going to happen? I think Tesla's most likely going to gap up, okay? It's going to be around this like 275 area. It's going to be trying to fight that. And it might try to continue pushing for like 280 or so, maybe into the 280s and then close around there. I think it's going to just rip. It's going to be like a gap and go to the upside. It's going to just keep going. And then approaching the next couple of trading days, the next week and a half, we could see Tesla slowly uptrend in a very, very healthy manner to about 300. It may not even be slow. It may just be very fast. And if 300 breaks, I mean, we could see 315. That's the next level. I mean, that's a possibility. Looking way back here, that's also very possible. Like 315 to 320 area. Ooh, that's very, very possible. That would be very awesome. But we're not too worried about that just yet. Let's just see if this thing could get to this imbalance at 275, which I think it's going to do. It's going to probably gap up very nicely and just start pushing. Break that. We have 280, 286, and then 290 as some resistance levels to watch for. I think it's going to try to fight for those over the next couple of trading days, and then it's eventually going to push up above 290 and make its way up to 300 most likely. But just watch for confirmation first, just to be safe, and just know that Tesla is a monster. It's very, very strong. This was a very good deliveries report that just came out, as investors are going to be flooding in. However, for Monday specifically, Tesla could pump, but it may not reach its full potential because it's going to be just half a day. So for that reason, we could see Tesla get stopped in like the 280s or so. It should gap up and get very close, if not above like 270, hit 275, which is the imbalance, and just try to make its way up to 280. But like I said, short day, watch that all very carefully. For SPY, let me just add that SPY, it gapped up quite nicely, but we do have a rejection candle that did form on the 4-hour time frame. There's also a bearish divergence on the RSI. Just wanted to note that there's no confirmation of this thing breaking down just yet. If it breaks below the 5 EMA at 442, watch 440 as support. If that fails us, then it's going to come down to like the 438 to 436 area, in my opinion. If it breaks below 440, that's the major support to watch for. It could even bounce off that. If it tries to push up, watch 444 as resistance, this entire zone. 444 to 445, the entire zone is resistance. Break above that, we have 446, 447.5, then potentially 450. If it gets above like 446 or so, it does have potential to try to make its way up to 450, but just to be safe, I'd be careful. I'm thinking this thing may try to pop a little bit more, just a small pop, then just start to downtrend a bit, maybe sell off near the very end of the day and have a very, very sideways price action tomorrow in a very boring manner, not too much volatility. And I think this because it's going to be a short trading day and it's going to be the last day before the weekend. So that's what tends to happen. The market's going to be closed for the 4th of July, so we tend to see people take profits. That's probably going to happen near the end of the day, so a slight cool off. And I think it's just going to trade very flat, maybe a small push up, then just come right back down and maybe close a little red, but very, very flat. Same thing with the QQQ. But the thing about the QQQ is, even if this thing is a little flat, it has a potential inverse head and shoulders, and it has, excuse me, sorry guys, it has this 372 area right over here as resistance. This is likely going to be the target for it. It could push up a little bit more because of Tesla and these other tech stocks. I am leaning more in that direction. A small push up by the time we get to like Wednesday or so, and then it may cool off a little bit afterwards. But for now, that's what I'm seeing for the markets. Tesla has a lot of potential, tons of potential for Tesla. Gap up and go is what I'm anticipating. Same thing for NIO, but it may not be as strong because of the fact that this was not a crazy huge deliveries report. It was a good one compared to the previous ones for the last few months, but it wasn't as like strong as like Tesla's, just relative to how it did before. And despite that, it still has potential. It should gap up and still go. So I just wanted to note that. And until then, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. All right, so enjoy your weekend, guys. NIO and Tesla to the moon, as the long term is still incredibly bright. Please get ready for the weekend that's coming up, and get ready for tomorrow. It's going to be half a day. Thank you. The market to the moon, and NIO to the moon, and Tesla to the moon, as the long term is very bright. And peace out.